Hey there, Banditos. Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of the Dollar Bin Bandits on this December 14th. I am Joe Marcello.
I'm Warren Phillips.
I'm Mike Farah.
And today we're bringing you an interview with someone that we have been wanting to get on our show for quite some time. And this interview certainly did not disappoint. We're talking about none other than Whilce Portacio. Look, this man has worked on some just awesome work or comics over the years, specifically Uncanny X-Men, Spawn, Punisher. He was in the mix or in the thick of it, if you will, during the 90s. He's worked on all the best stuff, all the most jacked heroes. He was working on it.
Yeah, Whilce is a extremely intelligent guy. He has a lot to say, and for me, growing up and being such a big fan of the Image line and how exciting it was for us as comic fans, and Whilce was a big part of that with his work, and to hear his stories and his thoughts and what he was like for him to go through all that was really, really interesting.
Yeah, Whilce will always be associated with the X-Men for me in that early 90s period where it was Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Whilce Portacio working on all the big books in that line. And he is bringing back one of his co-creations for a short little run on the X-Men Legends book, number 5 and 6. He's bringing back Bishop, kind of telling an origin story of Bishop, before the time leap into, at that point, the 90s. So definitely listen up. We front load the interview with that stuff, and it's really interesting. His book comes out on January 24th. So X-Men Legends number 5. Check it out and enjoy this interview with Whilce Portacio.
Today, we are absolutely thrilled, a little starstruck, and a little dumbfounded by the fact that we are actually talking to Whilce Portacio. How are you, sir?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for inviting me over. And it's going to be fun. We've all been in our caves. And so it's like great to, remember we're humans and connect, man.
We absolutely.
There's 3 of you.
That's it.
We're overwhelming in numbers.
Yeah. We got the glasses thing, going on. Oren, I mean, you want to get in on this?
I'm sorry about that. There's a little bit of news about you recently about some project you're working on called X-Men Legends, focusing on Bishop. Everyone's very excited. There's a lot of buzz going around, comic fans. How did this come together, and what can we look forward to?
Well, I mean, you can understand that, after 35 plus years, they've been trying to, get me out of retirement, right, so to speak, I mean, it's been a while since I've done interiors. And, I feel the old fogey so much because, I mean, you guys have to admit, society is moving quickly. So keeping up is like, there's no cheat sheet, So my point there is that what am I going to do? I mean, I'm going to have to do a hell of a research just to catch up to where my favorite characters are. And then they suggested this Legends thing. And I go, oh, okay, hey, yeah. I think I know a little bit about Bishop. And one thing on reflection, though, I because again things move so quickly. You guys remember those days. We were at Marvel. We were hitting it at Marvel, and then all of a sudden what's this Image? And then Image blows up, and now everybody follows and stuff. So my point there is, if you remember, Jim and I introduced the new strike book for X-Men. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing 281. I'm drawing it. Bob Harris, the other, calls me up and says, hey, create a new character. You got 2 weeks. So me and Carl Ostetter, a good friend of mine, we create Bishop. And then I start drawing him the next issue. And I'm an old science fiction guy. That's how I actually started. So, you want to have a 10-hour conversation? Let's talk about Dune, guys, okay?
Oh, yeah, we can discuss Dune.
So my point there is it's all about world building, as you probably know, right? So it's never been about, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have this kind of character with this kind of powers? It's always been, yeah, that would be cool. Now, what else? What's the backstory? How did that person get there? Because a thing in writing is not only is it cool, but okay, you got this cool story, kind of a beginning, you got this cool kind of a character. Now, I don't know if you guys know this. One of the tests is now, can you take that character out and put in another character? You know, they use this, somebody used this a while ago with Batman, Superman. If you can make a Batman story, but you can pull them out and put Superman in and nothing changes, that's not a Batman story. Sorry, right? And so there was a lot of background that Carl and I built with this. And we had a lot of things that we wanted to do, because back in the day, when you signed on the book, it was like you could stay as long as you wanted. You know, you guys probably know it's like 3-4 issues these days, right? You know,
Yeah,
you're lucky
very
if you
much
can
so.
get up to 6 or 8, but it's always changing now. Before, boom, you know, you could stay as long as you didn't kill yourself with the deadlines. And so the point there is, if you remember, 281, we start with this new strike thing. So we've got to handle all these old Crystal Claremont character villains. And then we've got to build that world. Okay, why do you have 2 strike teams? Well, it's just a deadly world, so we need 2 strike teams. Then I introduced Bishop in the 2nd issue, and it's like, oh wow, where did he come from? Fitzroy. Oh, these future Sentinels, and well, that's kind of cool. And he comes from this prison in the future that used to capture mutants. Whoa, what's that? And then if you remember, like 2-3 issues later, I joined Image. And then so in just a matter of a few issues, I'm out of there. And so with all that developing and bringing up the original main story of the 2 strike teams, we didn't get to do what we wanted to do with Bishop. There were a lot of holes. So that's basically where my headspace was when they suggested, hey, why don't we do a revisit? You know, and you could do what you know. So within the bounds of what happened after, you know, let's say, you know, after me, right? They said, okay, you could pull out all that stuff that you were developing, that stuff that you built for Bishop, and you could put it in there in the parameter and the limitation of, okay, this is what we're dealing with now. Like one of the things, which was an interesting surprise, but say it's skill set. We got 4 weeks to create something. So we got to think fast, right? You know, we love movies, we love animation, but how long's Avatar taking, right? You know, we got 4 weeks, all right? And so one of the big curves was, in the meantime, I don't know if you remember, the first time we saw Fitzroy in those early issues of Uncanny of mine, he was side by side with these Sentinels. And that was even a revelation. Wow, a villain has control of Sentinels, right? Well, I didn't know this myself, but when we started with the plots, guess what? Because of everything else that was happening, Bishop's Days of Future Past Time with the pool, no such thing as Sentinels. They're extinct. So I've got to fix that. I've got to weave through and around that. So what I intended to do, and this is with Brian Haberlin, a very good buddy of mine. We started to get, I was the technical manager basically of Wildstorm, because I was the only geek. My first computer was an Amiga 2000 in 1989. Brian, the same thing, but he was on the Tom Cow side. So we were the 2 geek scientists just cooking things up, right? And we started that way. And then after the initial Image, we found out that we loved a lot of the same things. You know, Bowie, Queen, science fiction, you know, everything. And so we became writing partners. We created a lot of stuff. So we've got this symbiosis as a creative team that's very much and this is interesting. Actually, this is interesting. I want to put it out to you guys. This is how we all, Jim and I, we all did comics back then, the creation side of it. We did it like Stan and Jack, where you might know that, Stan would call up Jack and say, Jack, Thor, next issue. What about something like this? And Jack would go, yeah. What if we did and this? Yeah, that. And then we did. So they piece it together on the phone in a couple hours. And that's the phone, right? Landline. No cell phone, no internet, no email. Hang up the phone, and Jack draws whatever the fuck he remembers. And he's just so good at storytelling, so cool that whatever it is, it's cool. I remember Stan telling me when they were figuring out the Silver Surfer, it was the silver guy from space, the Galactic Herald. There was no surfer thing. But if you remember at that period in the 60s, that was when surfing was coming up in the US. And so it was Jack going, hey, Stan, I'm going to draw him on a surfboard because, right, he needs to traverse the galaxies, the cosmos, right? And then Stan told me, he said, a surfboard? Some people might not even know what a surfboard is, and that kind of sounds silly, him standing on top of a board. Well, he admitted to me then, first time Jack drew it, he goes, yeah. And hey, he's silver surfer. Stan loved those double initials, and that's how it happened. So Jack would draw whatever he remembered, and Stan. Do I have to watch my? Actually,
nope. You don't have to. You're good.
I want to emphasize it by being a little crude, okay? But this is the skill set because we only have 4 weeks, right? We only have 4 weeks. The other than Jack Kirby, almost nobody else was able to draw 4 pages a day. Almost everybody, including us image guys, we could only draw 1 page a day, and that's even too fast for most people, because that's just fits in the 4 weeks. It's shorter than 4 weeks, but the extra at the end gives you time to maybe, we screwed up here, So that's really tight, right? So we've got to go. We can't go, what about this? So whether Stan likes what Jack has done, he respects that Jack it's gonna be a complete, very clear story, and it's gonna look extremely cool. So if Jack forgot something that he thought was the coolest part, he's not gonna be a bitch about it and bitch. He's just gonna take what Jack did, and it's solid and it's clear, and he's gonna write it. And I've seen writers do this. He's not going to write it as if, okay, well, let me write it so that somebody really reading it could see I'm pissed off here. He's going to write it as if this is exactly what him and Jack wanted to do. Because there's no way we're going to know that. Even with conventions, right? I get invited for free all over the world the whole year round. But I can't go to every single convention and talk to every single fan and say, hey, this editor was an asshole, The work has to talk for itself, and that's the relationship Brian and I have. We can talk, and here's another little tip you got to know what a story is. You got to know what characters are and what characters' roles are in your story. Therefore, you got to know it to the point of, okay, this is cool, yeah, this is cool, but there's this hole here. We got to address that. And if you've got to explain it to your partner, that's a wasting time. The moment you think about, oh, wait a minute, what about that? And you go, hey, over there. And he goes, oh, shit, right. Okay, what about this? Okay, do that. And then what about adding this little thing there? Yeah, that'll work. Okay, cool. And that's it. Conversation done. And then he goes off and completes it like Stan does. And the reason, okay, you could see why in real world that works. But here's the beauty for us as creatives. Okay, pretend I'm Jack because I'm a penciler. So I draw what I remember from the conversation, and then I give it to Stan, and then I get back the stats of Stan's copy, his script, and I read it and I go, whoa, yeah, cool, cool. That magic, you know? I mean, some people like to work at, no, this is exactly what I want, and this is only what I want. And then you get it and you go, yeah, the grammar's correct. Okay, cool. Let it go. I see that. I see that. But 30 plus years of like drawing Superman like this, or like this, or Cyclops like this, a Wolverine like this, or like, you know, I've probably drawn that 100 times. So as much as I love my job, that can get boring real quick, right? Because there isn't 5 million ways to draw Superman flying. There isn't 5 million ways. You know, you can change. You guys know this. It's usually this pose or this pose,
Right.
or this pose, but the camera just changes. So it's like we could have a sculptor sculpt these 3 poses, and we just change the angle, and now it looks totally different. Change the lighting, and now it's totally different. But it's just those 3 poses. Okay, so my point there is it's great to have magic like that, where you're surprised by your collaborators, where you see, oh, wow, he really pushed that. Or you're going, oh, no, I kind of clearly did that story-wise, but I have to admit, it's a little weak. And then you get it because, again, you got to be in sync without you telling your writer, and your writer goes, yeah, it's a little weak here. Let me add this in here to push that. And then, I mean, it's like if you've ever done like animation or anything, you could do the best punch animation and it flows great, it looks great, but there's nothing better than when you hear that pack, a sound effect added to it. Without the sound effect, it's just pretty. But with that sound effect, whoa, there's impact. You know, and that's magic. And that's the only way we've all been able to survive in this 4-week period, is because we have collaborators that we like to work with, and we can get surprised. We can be as surprised as you guys are. So sorry for raving on and all that stuff.
No, trust me. This is, I think the 3 of us are just like, you could just go on and we're just like, yeah, it's awesome. So then quickly, what I hope to do with this was add texture to the known, the briefly known story of Bishop and how he got here. Got it. So we want to just step back a bit, because we ask everyone who joins us the same question, and that's, how did you discover comic books?
Oh, actually, mine is a pretty nice story that you could film. I'm a Navy brat. So I was my dad at this point was stationed, we were stationed there for 4.5 years. That's a little bit longer than usual, at a place called Midway Island. Mm-hmm. It's basically right in the middle of the Pacific from California to Japan, right? Just right smack dab. So you can tell strategic wise, it's an important place, mm-hmm. right? But it's just a island 1 mile by maybe almost 2 miles. 1/8 of the island has concrete. The rest is just forest and restricted area. Now, for a little kid, a 12-year-old kid, that's like, restricted area? There must be something over there. We explored and found everything. You know, in fact, you couldn't join my club unless you had to find your own bayonet shovel. Because there was cartridges, bayonet shovels, there was pill boxes Imagine going through the forest and finding a pillbox, finding an artillery of, I forget what they called it, but these concrete structures where they put the huge artillery guns in, and
Wow.
finding those places to camp out, to make a fire, to buy plastic models and get glue, put it on it, light it with a match, and oh no, and then little things crashing, oh no, And the best part of that is that sorry, we were dumb kids, but the black smoke going up, right? So it's very visible. We all had walkie-talkies. We all were expecting us. We all knew this was going to happen because this is what we wanted to happen. At the same time, we were going, yeah, playing little war games and stuff. We were hearing out for the Coast Guard helicopter going, what the fuck's that black smoke? And then us pre-planned, okay, split up, guys, go to your, we built trenches all over the place. And with our walkie-talkies, we could keep, because we knew then, after a while, the shore patrol would come around in their trucks. So, I mean, it was a blast as a kid. So here I am in this great, I mean, it's better than Mayberry Art, FDMAC. So here we are, and the next door neighbor, she comes over and she goes, hey, I heard you talking about comics. You want some comics? My husband has comics, and we'll give it to you. And I go, oh yeah, cool. Go over there. It's this suitcase of comics with Neil Adams X-Men, with Jack Kirby Fantastic Four, that that 100-issue part of exploring, Gene Colan Silver Surfer Draculas, Strank, all of the great guys of the 60s. All that. So this guy was obviously a collector. So, but I was a kid going, wow, I got a great new present. Now I would have thought, wait a minute, this is actually a pretty good collection. Why is she just giving them to me? And so I swear, I'm in we live next door to each other. In Navy housing, it's like 4 to 6 block houses. So I'm sitting there at night going, wow, cool. And I hear through the wall. So she just wanted to get rid of his collection. But I was really lucky. And so I looked at that and I go, because I was already in the escape world of war stories. All of us when we were young, especially here, I'm on Midway Island. And I'm such a nerd. Every Sunday I'm at the library. So I'm reading all these war stories, all these survivor stories of guys getting shot down and surviving and what they went through and stuff. So my head is about that. My first drawings were, my dad managed the officers club and the barracks. And so I could go to his office and get reams and reams of copy paper. And so I just had tons of paper to just draw and draw. And I didn't know who he was, but I was influenced by Sergio. Him drawing all the little things in between the centers folds of Mad Magazine, and it was all these little like stories of lots of people and stuff. And so that's how I drew my war stories. I just, I'd read the war story and then I'd go, oh yeah, okay, it probably would look like something like this, It didn't look anything like that, but it was my kid imagination. And so from finding that out, then finding out that comics is this bigger fantasy. And now there's, whoa, superpowers. I go, wow, that's another thing. And then when I became a preteen, after we were billeted there, now we were in Hawaii, I then got dropped into my lap all these science fiction books. And again, I'm so lucky in life, man. I'm so extremely lucky in life. It's Asimov, it's Foundation series, it's Robot series, it's Herbert, the Doom stuff, his slight dive into horror. Dan Simmons, the Shrike of Hyperion. Oh man, that's a character that I've always tried to draw, but it's you can't. I mean, a villain made out of blades. I mean, that's scary, But So then I got to science fiction, and then that's where my writing came in. I figured it's not just about how far your imagination can go, but it gets cooler and cooler and cooler and realer and realer and realer if there's a story, if there's a reason that it happens. Somebody can do something cool, but it's something cool, and there's this extremely complicated but clear and real reason why it happened, then you go, oh wow, that's cool. And now I can understand. I don't know if you guys know this. One of the things that Bob Harris asked, he said, well, create a new X-Men. Why? Well, marketing says your team is underpowered. I go, what the fuck underpowered? I got the original class X-Men. He goes, well, Wolverine's on the other side. So, if you guys remember, that was the rise of Wolverine, because he was the first superhero that was willing to cross the line. And so that's where the word badass came into play. So Bob goes, okay, but you need a badass guy to balance it out. So just create a badass new X-Men. So I that was my only limitation. Now, again, because I've gone through all the psychology stuff, and that's how I shape stuff, and that's how I approach life. I go, well, I don't like, and this is because I'm a military brat, I don't like psychotic, angry characters, and that's what basically Wolverine was. I mean, I've had friends who are like, Team 6, and they're not the stereotypical gung-ho trying to prove themselves every day. I mean, every time they go out, they've probably killed one or two people, and that's not pretty. No matter who you are, that hits your psyche. And so I go, so how can I create a Wolverine, but that he's not psychotic? Because according to my friends, they were telling me that leads to either offing yourself, or you just do what Wolverine did in Logan. You just hasta Luis, I'm out of here. You just disconnect. And so I wanted a more aspirational character. And I remember reading Conan. And if you've ever read Conan, the short story is he's such a badass, barbarian, cool guy. And the reason he was a badass, cool guy was that he was born on the battlefield. So he had no choice. He had to, stand up or let somebody make him fall down, right? And so he just had the genetics. He was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He just had the height and the width and the build and the bones and the speed to do what he needed to do to survive. So I go, okay, where in the X-Men mythology can I do that? Boom, Days of Future Past, right? And it's got this added thing because Terminator came out a couple of years ago. Oh, wow, the Sentinels, So it's like, oh, great. That's another thing. Try to grab onto what's happening today and just do it totally different. But you can use the concepts because that emotion is still present in the audience. So I go, okay, so what if, and we hadn't come with Bishop yet, and Carl came up with the name Bishop. What if Bishop grew up in Days of Future Past? In the days where mutants were all hunted, in the days they had to go underground, when it was like Terminator. Your job is to wake up, go up on top and fight. And then you come back at night, hopefully. And then you just re-energize for the next day. So I go, okay, what if Bishop was this person that didn't have to struggle to be able to survive? What if, we've all known those people, those guys that we hate, he was just born pretty, born with muscles, born with wide shoulders, right? What if he was just born for Days of Future Past? Okay. And so to him, going out into the world was, yeah, it's dangerous out there, but hey, I got this, I've always had this. It's easy. It just comes easy to him. And so coming down at night and trying to talk to the girl over that's pretty, trying to have a relationship, trying to have something more, trying to build a society. That's the scary, interesting stuff. So I built this psychology of, okay, he goes out there and goes, fight, yeah, cool, I'm dun, 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 yeah, no problem. Yeah, oh, another picture, okay, yeah, dun dun dun, kill the set. No, oh no, okay, yeah, hey man, you know, and then he goes down and it's like, okay, now, and then you gather your buddies, hey man, was she looking at me, man? You know, that's interesting because he's now not that. Because one thing we learned about Superman's hard to write and draw. He's perfect. You can't have a cliffhanger. Oh no, this new villain's gonna come and he has plans and he's gonna kill Superman. Yeah, right. Superman is Superman. There's no danger, there's no conflict. He's gonna get out no matter what. And so that's why you have to build human characters. And that's the brilliance of Stan. And that's why around the world, you guys fell in love with, and I fell in love with before you guys, you know, Stan and Jack superheroes because they were human, because we could then pretend we could become that, right? You get into the X-Men mythos and you wake up every day going, oh shit, not today, you know, because we put that possibility in you, as opposed to he's now this perfect person. Oh, I'm not a perfect person. That I mean, I'm told that every day. The world tells me that every day, you know? And so that's the character I built. So that's why, if you remember in the issue that he's, I forget what it is, but remember there was an issue where he's standing in Xavier's outer office, waiting to go in to talk to Xavier. Xavier, the legend Xavier. And he's looking at these pictures and he sees Storm's picture and goes, oh my God, there she is. I hope she doesn't walk in because I don't know if I'm gonna, shit, it's Storm. You know, I didn't have time to expound on that he was just this little boy. He was closer to Colossus than he was to Wolverine in personality, but he was just so big and tough, he could beat anybody's ass, you know? And so that was the character I did. Here's another little tip too. You guys saw this, my little shortcut, Malcolm and Randall. They're my little shortcut, okay? Because I can't have this new kind of a badass character come in and say, I'm a badass character, but I'm nice. You know, in any visual medium, you got to show it, right? So what if he comes with two buddies and they love him so much, they're willing to die for him. They're willing to die for him. He doesn't have to say a thing. See, that's how we built up the John Wayne character and stuff like that. He didn't say things. Nobody said things. He was just, and if you read the Conan things, it was always, yeah, I heard there's this Conan guy and he did this. What the fuck? Conan, he did that? And everybody's silent now. What the fuck? So how come everybody's quiet? And they go, that's Conan.
So I wanted to back up to an earlier part of your career, basically the earliest part of your career when you're breaking into the industry. And you broke in, I think, as many artists do, as an inker, right, on Alien Legion and Longshot. I'd love to hear what that experience sort of taught you about the industry and about making comic book art before you were actually penciling.
Well, I'm glad you framed it that way because it was a great teaching moment, and I don't think it happens as much anymore. Let me give you the full context. My first trip to San Diego, and again, I said earlier, I'm very lucky in life. It was the first San Diego con, and this was not in the big convention center. This was still at the little civic center, and it was the first year that every single Marvel editor went to the con to specifically look for new talent. And this was my very first con, and I didn't even know about it. It was my big cousin saying, hey, get your drawings together and I'm going to drag you over there. And I go there and I catch the eye of Carl Potts. And he was one of the senior editors, and he was the editor of the Punisher book. And it was very lucky because of all the editors, and there were a bunch of great editors back then, but of all the editors, he was the only one that would teach you. All the editors' basic line was, "Hey man, you're pretty good. You're almost there, but I can't hire you right now. But hey, here's my card. Keep sending me your samples as you." And then you never hear from him. So you basically kind of usually wait till next San Diego and bring in new samples. Carl, every 2 weeks, he's calling you up and saying, hey, you got any new samples? So, and then another part of context, at the same time, he's met Jim Lee. Okay. And so he's taking Jim and I under his wing, and he looks at our second set of samples, and he goes, you guys can draw real good, but your storytelling is pretty, it's not very clear. And both Jim and I go, what the fuck storytelling? Isn't it just drawing pretty pictures? And then so Carl, this is again, this is the FedEx time. This is before dial-up. He actually sends us this great book called The 5 C's of Cinematography, a book that he Xeroxed. I mean, there's like 300 pages of it. And he Xeroxes it for Jim and I. So he FedEx a copy to me, FedEx a copy to Jim. And then every 2 weeks after that, he's, so this is a film book, but it's a film book about storytelling. And so Jim and I absorb it and we figure out storytelling. Okay, now that took a couple months for both of us. So in between that, Ann Nocenti, who was the X-Men editor, came up, met Art Adams, and they created Longshot. And well, actually, no, a little bit before that, there were some problems in deadlines with Alien Legion, one of Carl's books. Actually, his book, he owns that book. And Terry Austin couldn't do some of the half of 2 issues. And so he'd seen my samples, and a lot of my samples had inks in it. So he goes, hey, I could pay you the going rate, while you're studying cinematography, storytelling, why don't you earn some money? So I do that. Now, for a little more context, Scott Williams and I in high school in Hawaii, became buddies. And that's where Scott's one of the earlier collectors. Imagine in high school, your senior buddy has Kaluta pages, has oh man, I'm blanking. Howard Page. I mean, he's got all of the real big guys and the actual work. So I get to see, not this, I get to see the actual real stuff. And we go off to college separately, and we meet at that San Diego Con. We reunite at that San Diego Con. So when I accept the inking offer from Carl, I go, hey, Scott, you're a better inker than I am, but he's hired me. But hey, because I'd already heard about this. Well, both of us had already heard about this. I could pay you the $10 to fill in blacks. He goes, cool. Because again, our mentality at the time was just get in, get your foot in that door, And then so Scott comes by and he fills my blacks. And then after a while, I noticed that Scott loves trees and texture and grounds. And so by the end of that first half issue, I go, hey, Scott, the Stroman dude, man, he's too many trees. And then he goes, can I do those? And I go, yeah, sure. And and then we start there, and that's how Bofa and I get introduced all to the other editors, and that's why then when I became a penciler, oh yeah, Scott's going to be the inker. I mean, you know, from an editor standpoint, oh, that's one less headache. If I have to pound two heads in, it's only one phone call, because at that point now he's living where I'm living, right? And then when Jim gets online and starts penciling, Carl then goes, "Hey, let's see if Scott can ink Jim." And Jim was a little problem at the time because he idolized Byrne, but his pencils didn't look like Byrne. He didn't yet understand that what he so mastered so much now, that there's a certain way that you draw that you're communicating to your inker. It could look sloppy to some people, could look typed to some people, but if you do it right, an inker knows what you're trying to do there, and an inker will give you that. And so he had to learn that, and part of his learning process was to see what he did and then to see Scott interpret that. And as we all know, Scott, even from the very beginning, was the Incus Maximus. You know, he is one of the best. So, anyways, I'm doing all that, and then we get in, and so my point there is, here we were pulled in. Again, we were so lucky to have Carl, you know, and Carl was one of the guys instrumental with a lot of other people, and he was one of the only ones there, because we were all just kids. We all never even had a job, so you know, we knew crap, you know. But here's somebody pulling us in and showing us, you know, the way of the world. In fact, I remember Louise Simonson, Walter Simonson, and Chris Claremont. At that time, they were petitioning together because they were the big Star Block guys, right? And they were petitioning at that point for Marvel to commission a how-to manual for all creators, so that I'll tell you one. I did a lot of stupid things. Here's one of the stupid things I did. I finished that half issue of Alien Legion, and whoa, cool! This looks cool. I'm so proud of myself, you know, and Scott, but I'm so proud of myself. So I put it in a FedEx, and I'm going, I got a FedEx code. I don't fucking pay for this shit, man. You know, and I could walk into the FedEx office, and the pretty girls there, and they go and, you know, work it out, and then they go, see you next week. I'm now the next day waiting for this call from Bob Harris going, I mean Carl Potts. I'm going, hey Whilce, such a great job, man. You're really good. I'm gonna give you more jobs. No call. Then the next day, guess what? I got a FedEx package. It's the pages with a note. You forgot to erase the pencils.
Uh-huh.
Nobody ever said that. It was just unwritten, right? Obvious, you know. And so they were trying to get something like that done. I didn't understand it at the time, but now I do. But I'm glad I was dropped into that world, and I think Jim is really glad they were dropped in, because you know that phrase, sink or swim. That was it. You know, if you've ever met Jim and I, we're competitive. We're not lazy guys. We're not guys that take things, you know, lying down. You know, we wanted to become comic book artists. What the fuck's that? It's not even a job. Jack Kirby was complaining at that time. He was making $45 or $75 a page. The Jack Kirby, the king. That's why he had to do for comic books a month. It wasn't because, hey, let me show off. No, it was necessity. You know? So we wanted to become these big guys in this little pond that nobody had ever heard of. You know, I mean, it was a laugh. us young 20-somethings going into a bank with, look at this, man. I'm earning enough to buy a house, man. And that's not a lot of money. It's just back there in the day, if you earned $2,000 a month, you could get credit to buy a house just on that one paycheck. And we were earning just a little bit over $2,000 a month. And then later on, we get a royalty check. But back then, okay, you walk in, hey, and then you don't really note, because you're a kid and you love comics, that there are all these Spider-Mans all over the check. So the pretty cashier gets it and going, oh, how cute. And you're trying to hit up, and she's just going, you're so cute. Nowadays, right?
Little kitty checks.
Yeah. Nowadays, right? You walk in there with your Spidey, especially during Christmas, the winter times, because they put a little Santa hat on Spidey, right? Now the beautiful cashier goes, wow. Hey, I got to call my manager. And the manager comes in and goes, wow, cool, man. Hey, can you get me tickets to San Diego Con? Totally different world. So my point there is, we had to want it. It wasn't a matter of, hey, we deserve this because we're trying hard. No, it was sink or swim. It was, I mean, we never complained. It was, okay, hey, create another character. Never created a character. But, okay, sure. 2 weeks, okay, no problem. Create it. Bob loves it. Okay, we draw it. Okay, draw it. Okay, I draw it. Okay, now write the stories. Okay, yeah. No problem. Oh, and we're going to get John Byrne to script it. Oh, cool, yeah. And then a couple months after that, Todd comes in. Hey, guys, let's all get together and do our own company. Okay. Never published anything, never had a business or anything, but we were smart. We figured it out. Talk to the printers, talk to the distributors. Oh, look, it's not that hard. The hardest part is actually just fucking producing it, drawing it, writing it. Once it's done, it's all credit. Did you guys know that? We send the pages into Cubicore. They shoot it. They print it. We don't pay them to print it. They send it to Diamond. Diamond distributes it. Diamond doesn't pay them. Goes out to the retailers. Retailers get you to buy it. You buy it. Now, with that money, it's called back end. Then we get paid. Then the printers get paid. Then Diamond gets paid. So we were literally printing money. Us dumb shit kids. We fell into that. We didn't have to raise the money. We didn't have to do Kickstarter. We didn't have to do, anything except be talented, except connect to you guys. And that is all our power. And it shows. I don't know what you guys say of Rob, okay? He's a very good friend of mine. I respect him immensely as a person. He's a very big family guy, right? And he's very loyal, okay? But you have to understand, for the people that hate him, and there's a lot of people that hate him, he was the guy who convinced Ryan Reynolds to become Deadpool. He was one of the team that pushed them to do. I mean, imagine Ryan Reynolds after the fucking debacle of what?
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern.
And embarrassing himself with this painted suit. How are you going to get that bankrolled? No, Hollywood is risk averse. Oops, remember when Jackson came in with, I think it was 10 minutes of footage from Weta of King Kong, because that's what he wanted to do. But Mighty Joe Young just failed at the box office. Hollywood goes, no, we can't do King Kong. Oh, man. But we got this Lord of the Rings thing. Have you ever read that? It's all timing. It's all luck, really, But you got to have that talent. You got to have that drive. It can't be a drive of I want to be. It can't be a drive of, oh, that would be cool. It's just got to be a drive of, hey, man. And that's what Rob did. None of us did that. None of us of the seven got his stature, what he did. We all wanted it. Todd got closest with his HBO deal for the animation, and then he'd always had a 3-picture HBO deal after that, but he never got, he's always just wanted to direct Spawn live action. That's arguably on the way right now, but it's Rob he could get invited to any premiere basically in Hollywood. He could walk into almost any producer's, director's office, actor's office in Hollywood.
That's really interesting. I never knew that he was the one that convinced Ryan Reynolds. I always assumed that Ryan Reynolds was just always into the character and wanted to do the character, because I think he was trying to make it before Green Lantern got off the ground.
Well, here's an interesting secret, and it goes to PR. Okay, because one of the very big things that helped us was Gareb Shamus, right? Wizard magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Because the comics come out every 4 weeks, so there's silence for 4 weeks, right? But in the middle of that comes out every month Wizard magazine, and so every week we were together on the phone with Gareb saying, "I got 10 more pages," and he needs more content, and we go, "Okay, what if we have a contest to name the new villain in whatever book? Or can we do an in-depth story on the creation of this new book because its backstory is really interesting, but the real reason we want this write-up is because it's going to be late." So there's a sleight of hand of, "Oh, well, here's information, man. Here's you can read about it, And so my point there is, from reading Wizard magazine, you guys probably got this notion that we were all buddies. We've been buddies forever. We just link minds together because we're all kids together. No, when we formed Image was the first time we all really met. We were just 7 young Turks who just happened to believe in the kind of comics that you guys wanted to see. And that was just our imagination of where comics should be going at that point, where it had to be, it's a visual medium, so it has to go full bang on the visual medium. Because especially Jim's a very analytical mind. He's an Ivy Leaguer, right? And so 5 minutes, right? Sometimes even a minute, right? You're waiting 4 weeks and that's it. Well, we understand also it's 5 minutes. Oh, wow, what a cool story. Then, wow, that's cool. And is that an Easter egg? It's like an hour of just visually going through it. So if we pile on the visuals and make everything more powerful, everything more cooler, there's more for you to look at that point. Now it gets you through a little more of the 4 weeks in between. So it's all about not only perception, but content. And so that's one of the things we learned about. And it turns out the baby of the bunch, Rob, learned that the best. Because look, okay, it's not only Deadpool, it's not only Ryan Reynolds. It looks like everything he created at Marvel is online, right?
Yeah.
That's not luck. Deadpool is maybe luck. But having all the other things fall into place and fall in the way he wants them to be done. You guys probably forgot this, but Hollywood was, like in the Keaton days and stuff, we're like, you kids, yeah, the audience kind of wants a Batman, but we have real writers, we have real directors, so just let us handle this. No, we don't need you on the set. We don't need to hear anything, And those first few movie passes failed because they understood film, but they didn't understand comics. It's a totally different medium. When they started to understand comics, then that's where movies boom, and they made millions. Here's one little thing, okay? Have you guys noticed one of our things is that, we noticed that the first page of a comic book is on the right-hand side. So there's no left-hand side because that's the back of the cover, and it's a plasticky, waxy paper. So it's even different, right? So if we had a page there, it would look color-wise and everything look totally different than the other page, right? So we start page 1 on the right. Then when you flip it over, boom, you got 2 pages, 2 and 3. Wow, we could possibly do a big spread. And spreads, if you remember, started as a page spread. Then we go, whoa, 2 pages, dude. And so we started getting into the story mode organically. Okay, first page is an initial quick setup. Setup for what? Setup for the page 2 and 3, boom. And what is that boom? It's a taste of what's going to happen in the final act, the big fight, because that's what everybody's looking for. So page 2 and 3 is just, and then page 4 and 5, guess what, right? 2 weeks ago, then we set it up, and then we go through, and then it goes to its end. And then that's why then we didn't do this at first, but then it developed to the last page is, because we went back to traditional, is a cliffhanger. That's why now look at all the movies. How do all movies start? Exactly the same way. You get in the first 10 minutes a glimpse of what that big fight's going to be, and then 2 weeks later, and then it progresses to the big fight, and now at the big fight, yay! And then even the credits roll now. They fake you, right? And you go, and then you see all the comic fans going, no, wait. And there's that cliffhanger. Okay, they copied us. And another thing, real quickly, is 20 pages is not a lot of pages. That basically boils down to about 4 scenes, and they're quick scenes, right? That's why we have long panels or thin panels sometimes, because we don't have that much space left with the other panels. So we've got to squeeze it in there. And one of the gimmicks, one of the skills is, okay, I got this scene, and the major thing happening is here, and then there's this subplot here. Okay, depth of field, people. We draw the main action in the foreground, and in the background, guess what? That secondary scene is happening. So we layer scenes. Now, believe it or not, that's an old school Akira Kurosawa, David Lean, Lawrence of Arabia thing. That the more layers you have, that doesn't get so busy that you can't understand what's happening, brings your frame to life. And so we did that a lot because we knew you guys wanted more story. And Chris Claremont he always wanted more story, and we knew that if we don't get that secondary stuff in there, he's going to fill it with word balloons explaining that there's a secondary story that you can't see. So then when we watch Terminator, we go, oh man, Cameron must be a comic fan, because he started layering too. Now, if you look at movie, guess what? Almost all movies are layered now. So we, in a lot of ways, we lucked out in what happened. But again, I want to go back to, we were just dumb kids, dumb in life, dumb socially, but we just loved this. And we didn't just sit there going, okay, I'm getting paid, man. Oh, cool. Yeah, just okay, whatever you want me to do. Okay. Now we go, oh, this is such a cool scene. What if we did this? What if they did that? Oh, look. Todd goes, oh, look, there's a border. It is just a fucking line. Well, what if I made webs out of that? Oh, that would be cool. And then me and Jim go, oh, what do we do with these scraggly energy lines? Because it's a big punch shot. Oh, yeah, that's cool. What if he punches him and it hits so much that the panel tips over? We loved it. And we just pushed it. And so we learned, you take what you're doing, no matter how mundane everybody else is saying it is, or remember how childlike it is, how only for kids it is, how bubblegum, that's the word they used back then, bubblegum pop comics were. Go for it. Make it what, that's where my head is right now too, because the format hasn't changed since the 20s. That is my opinion. one of the real reasons why millions of people will watch the next Thor movie, but that Wednesday at the comic shop, it'll sell what, 60,000. Same character. Those millions going in the movie are saying, yeah, comic superheroes are cool. Never picked up a comic book. And you can't blame them. Again, remember I told you earlier, we never complained. Okay, they're not buying it. They're not seeing comic books. What can we do to make them see comic books? That's where my head is.
And we're back. Well, of all the Whilce Portacio interviews, that was one of them. And there was a lot said in there. We're not going to deny that. But I hope you guys can, sift through some of that and really digest it, because he was a fun guy to talk to, not going to lie. There was some other things thrown in there that we didn't necessarily ask for, but hey, man, he's a creative guy, and he shoots from the hip. So it was a great interview.
Yeah, having Whilce back at Marvel just seems like such a good fit to have him working on Bishop again, and he's excited about it. And hopefully, there's more to come with his association with them.
I love to hear about his creative thought process, and as you can tell, there's a lot that's behind the page when Whilce is working on a book, and he has just a lot of great, interesting things to say about the industry and about his own work and things that are sort of tangential to that and support that. So would love to have him on again. Remember, X-Men Legends #5 on January 24th. And then there will be a conclusion to that story in #6, I believe, in February. But that will do it for this episode of the Dollar Bin Bandits. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for rating, reviewing, and subscribing, especially on Apple Podcasts. But you could do it on Spotify, or you could even leave us a note or a like on YouTube. So please do that. We will see you next time.